Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Film Seizure Streams the Movies. I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I'm Jason Oliver.
And so if you listen to my review of Transformers from Netflix, I had talked about this being kind of the new normal here. No more movies to go and see at the movie theater.
But we saw new movies.
We have seen some new movies.
We saw some new movies.
And but we have to stream them now. So we are still going to review some new stuff. But these are, like from the Netflix, or in this case, both of these movies I watched on Amazon.
These are on VOD, and they are both playing your local drive-in. That's kind of what I wanted to pick them, is because I saw they were playing the local drive-in, and I thought, well, let's do that. Let's pretend we went to the drive-in, because we could have.
Well,
let's watch them, and let's talk about them.
Yeah. So I want to thank Jason a lot for this.
Oh boy.
You'll hear more about that in the second half. But of course, we are recording this via the Zoom. We are Zoomers, I think.
Getting that Zoom money. That Zoom money.
Yeah, come on, Zoom, give us some money.
Yeah.
I'm drinking Daredevil, a local beer.
Oh, I'm drinking some Wild Turkey lemonade.
Daredevil goes great with both of these movies. What movies? Sorry, Jason. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a cocktail that my lovely wife made for me. It is a mango juice and pineapple rum.
Well, that
Excellent.
Sounds great.
It's quite delicious.
So we've got two movies to talk about. We're going to talk about one, then we're going to probably have a major disagreement over the other one.
I don't know about major.
Pretty much. I mean, I'm so far in the negative on the other one, but we'll get to that. So let's talk about Amulet.
What's wrong with her?
It has to be this way.
I'm afraid.
Did you kill people in the war?
2020's Amulet. Now, this is a first-time director, correct?
Yes, correct. Romala Garai.
Okay.
She's a UK British actor. I don't know much of her work. I've seen a few things she's been in, but her name didn't ring a bell. She didn't really ring much of a bell at all for me. I didn't really know anything about this movie other than I think it played Sundance earlier in the year.
Yes, it did, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did, actually.
But yes, it is both of these movies that we're reviewing tonight are directorial debuts, actually. And this one is from someone of the female persuasion, whereas the next one will be from the male persuasion.
So this movie, let's see here. A couple of the people in this movie I know relatively well enough. I recognize them at least.
Yeah, Imelda Staunton. She's probably the most recognizable.
Well, yeah, she's Umbridge.
She's Professor Umbridge from Harry Potter.
Right.
She's known as quite a villainess. Yeah.
And funny enough, a lot of people take quite a bit of umbrage with the author of the Harry Potter.
Indeed.
And then there's Carla Jury, who plays Magda.
Yes.
She was the whatever. She was the magical child of a human and a replicant in the sequel to Blade Runner.
Oh, yes, she was.
Yep. So I recognized her, and I thought, okay, well, I know this person. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I know who that person is. But I did not know the guy who played Thomas, Alex Sacarino? Yeah, something like that.
And the other woman, Miriam, I can't pronounce her name. It's like Angeliki Papalaya. She is she's a regular in the films of Yorgos Lanthimos, the guy who did The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Favorite.
Okay.
Dogtooth. I believe she's in Dogtooth.
She is.
Yeah.
Yes.
She is. So what? This is a movie that right out of the gate, I'm like, ooh, I like the look of this movie. It starts kind of in the woods, where we see Tomas, this guy who is some sort of a soldier, and he basically guards a. He basically just guards like a border. There's some sort of a civil war or something that's going on, and he's guarding a border. Now, in his like morning exercises or whatever, he comes across basically one of those. They look like they're kind of chiseled out of bone or something. Like it's like a little amulet, or not an amulet, but like a charm that would go on an amulet. Right? Am I saying that right?
I think
it's like a figurine. It looks to me like a very something you would see in like Catholicism, like a Virgin Mary sort of statue figurine. That's kind of what it evoked for me.
To me,
and I imagine this is supposed to be the symbolic amulet of this film, but
right.
It is. It is mentioned as such.
I'm not totally sure how it all really.
Well, the imagery of the head of this thing shows up in a lot of places. It's meant to look like a seashell, which plays a big part in the third act.
But an amulet on its own is like a magical charm, right?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I always think of amulets as like what Count Dracula costumes come with.
But it's like I think an amulet is supposed to be like a good luck charm, essentially. It's like a ward of evil. A ward against evil.
Yes.
Well, the first thing I thought of was when I saw it. Of course, I didn't grow up Catholic. I didn't grow up religious. But the first thing I thought of was something like almost like a like a fertility type of thing that you would see in maybe more like Middle Eastern or Northern African type of cultures.
I mean, yeah, I think that you're getting that's getting a little bit more to getting a little more specific about the certain powers of an amulet. But I think amulet at its basest definition is really just a pretty general good luck kind of charm. Sure. Yeah.
So then this movie does not go perfectly linear.
No.
So what we end up finding out is that later on the guy wakes up. He is living in London now, and he is homeless. He sleeps with his hands taped together, which is an interesting thing, which I don't think we necessarily get a great explanation later.
I think Susan, actually, my wife, she actually nailed this on the head, because I asked the same thing out loud. I was like, why does he tape his hands? He's protecting his money. He's taping his money in his hands so that they can't be stolen.
Interesting.
That's interesting, because later you see him punching himself in his sleep.
Yes, I thought he was protecting himself because he would injure himself from his dreams that he was having.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Well,
the tape would help you a lot with that, but maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's better.
I mean, he was scratching. He was scratching himself.
Scratching. If he's taping his fingertips, then it could make sense.
Yeah.
So
he's definitely troubled.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely.
He's troubled by his past.
Right, and it's alluded to that something happened while he was guarding this border, and he ends up meeting where he's staying ends up catching on fire, and he meets this seemingly kindly old nun who says, I can take care of like what he had like a sore on his head that bled for like 3 days. And she took him to a house that basically said, you can live here. Pretty much all you have to do is just help them fix this house up. And there's a lady there named Magda, and her mother lives upstairs, and her mother is very sick and will die soon.
I think another thing of this movie, it sort of keeps you off balance a little bit because there's not a really good sense of time or place in either time period, the past and the present. I didn't really quite grasp that. I guess this is all taking place in London. They don't really hit that over your head very hard. And you definitely don't really know or understand where the war he was involved in and what border he's protecting. That's not really explained. So but he's certainly a refugee of some sort.
Yeah. Okay. So that actually brings up the first thing that I was trying to figure out about this movie, because the reason why I thought it was most definitely England at the very least, and I think Wikipedia says it's actually specifically London.
Yeah.
So he goes to work, right? And the guy drives by and yells at him, and he's obviously I don't think it's a union thing. I think it's a refugee thing.
Oh, most definitely.
And I most definitely think that is a much bigger problem right now in England.
Oh, for sure.
So I at first thought this was some sort of I
actually thought it was Germany.
Well,
it's a big problem in Germany.
Well, I think. Well, yeah, yes, but Britain did the whole Brexit thing.
Yeah.
Part of it was because they didn't want the rest of they didn't want the people that the EU would push north. But anyway, I think he came from someplace maybe sort of kind of in the region of like Bosnia, Herzegovina, that kind of area where there is a lot of people who don't get along there. I don't think that they're necessarily fighting a war, but I kind of felt like he was like an Eastern European refugee from a not so great situation. That was what I was kind of reading into it. But most definitely the first thing I was picking up from this was that it really kind of felt like a refugee or immigrant type of story.
Well, the movie goes out of its way to make you sympathize with this guy.
Yeah.
He's on hard times. He's haunted by his past. He's destitute essentially, and then he loses what little he has in this fire, in the place where he's squatting. And then he's rescued by this kindly old nun who wants to give him a chance. And so you find yourself kind of rooting for this guy, and you're in his shoes. Yeah. That's very purposeful.
Yes.
To make, I think, some of the twists and turns be more impactful to the audience. And yes, that's the sort of the scene that we're set is he is now at this house with this woman
who's acting like she doesn't want him there.
Yes, who's acting like she doesn't want him there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's supposed to help her, just generally help her, fix up the house, whatever.
Yeah, because the house is in disrepair. It's led to believe at first that this was because it's just the old mom and the daughter, but they found out that they had moved into this house, and that it was just in disrepair, so they're basically squatters. But then we also find out that that's not necessarily the case. It's okay. So let me. We'll probably eventually get to some spoilers here, but I want to talk a little bit about the first two acts, and specifically because that's what I like the best about this. we have this cross between when Tomas is in the present day, kind of destitute, kind of shell-shocked a little bit from his life. He was going to school. He's going to be a philosopher. Like, he's still going to school. He just doesn't have a place to live.
Right. He's writing his dissertation throughout the film.
Exactly. And, so he is somebody who is a thinker, not a fighter necessarily, but he was brought into this war. At one point in the flashback, it seems like he kind of willingly joined up, but also, like I think it was said by Miriam, who we'll get to her in a minute. She basically said, but your mother didn't want you to play soldier, right?
Yeah, she pulled some strings to get him sent to a place where he would not be harmed.
Exactly. So basically, in a shack on the road, basically.
Yeah, and that's supposed to give you more of an idea that he's a passive. He couldn't hurt anybody. He wouldn't be a very good soldier. It gives you this sense that he's kind of meek in a way.
Right.
Which is also very important to the story. I thought they did a really good job of setting up his character.
Yeah.
Even though it was confusing at times, I understood him.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I thought they did a good job of setting up his character too, until they took a complete and total left turn with his character that I didn't feel was set up at all.
So I would be interested, and sorry, Jeff, I would be interested to go back to those scenes because we haven't really gotten to Miriam yet.
Right.
But I want to see how now that I know what I know, I want to see how he's looking at her, how he is approaching her. And can we talk about how Miriam gets there in the first place now, just to set it up, or do we have...
Yeah, no, we can do that, because that's the other side of his character, because it was at this point that I realized that maybe this isn't necessarily a allegory for refugees, but it's probably a PTSD allegory. Because one day he's just kind of hanging out. He's chilling in his little shack at the border. And all of a sudden this woman starts running like full speed ahead towards the border. And he is supposed to shoot her, or he's supposed to defend the border at least. He's not going to let her just walk across the border. And he doesn't. What he ends up doing is he knocks her out. Is that correct?
She passes out, I think,
passes
actually.
Yeah, she collapses.
She collapses. Okay,
but he's very hesitant to shoot her that whole time. Another way of them showing you his nature that we're supposed to believe. And he brings her back and tells her, essentially, this war is almost over. This feud is almost over. If you wait this out here, you'll be able to walk across.
Yes, but she cannot really show herself because she'll be taken by...
There are soldiers coming through, some other people who are part of this feud that do pass through the checkpoint.
Right.
She has to hide, yeah.
This is where there's an interesting moment where the nun, Tomas goes to her because he's confused by what he's seen in the home, and we don't have to get into all of that necessarily, but she says to him about where her home and her help and her assistance of him, that this isn't a sanctuary, it's a crucible. And there are 3 instances of that in this movie. There is that place on the border, right? Mm-hmm. Where for her, it is not a sanctuary, it's a crucible. And potentially it is for him too. The home that he ends up being placed in to help Magda is, again, that same situation. And then apparently, and then it's where the nun is. It's really probably more the 2 homes, where Tomas finds himself, the border and Magda's house. And I think that's an interesting idea, because it does give you this false sense of security. Like she has found a better place, and he has found a better place in these 2 different times, but it doesn't necessarily play out that way.
Yeah, and the fact that she brings up Crucible here is interesting, too, because the Crucible, the book, is about the Salem witch trials, persecution of women, right? Which this movie does some flipping on its head.
Yeah.
Very purposefully, I think the Crucible is brought up in this.
For sure.
Yeah. So Miriam, basically all she wants to do is she wants to get on the other side of the border because that's where her daughter is. And perceived safety.
Right.
And conceivably, I kind of don't ever feel like that she ever really has to be kept where Tomas is stationed, because there's enough woods and not enough activity out there that I kind of feel like she could leave. But he keeps her, basically. Probably mostly out of his own loneliness. And he also, I think, thinks he's doing the right thing by keeping her conceivably safe.
Well, I think he's staying loyal to his cause.
Yeah.
And he is keeping her safe. Right. But you're right. I mean, this is kind of one of those things you start to poke holes in this movie. She could have at any of time just left.
Right.
And in the circumstance where she does leave or attempt to leave, it feels a little contrived to me.
Well, and also
it almost feels a little bit like bad man has to do bad thing.
Yeah, a little bit, because I didn't quite understand exactly what he was doing to her.
Right.
Because I thought he killed her.
Right.
By the way, now I guess we should get into some spoilers.
Since we've already spoiled it, let's spoil it.
Well, I don't think
that I don't think is really the spoiler, though. That happens.
No,
that
happens
not. Into the third act, kind of. You know.
But it's
the revelation that you need for the rest of the movie, though, is that he carries out some kind of violence.
It's the thing that has to happen to justify what happens to him, but I don't really believe it.
Right, we'll go ahead and I guess we'll talk about what happens there, right? And this is like Jason said, third act. Go ahead,
throughout we need to talk about Magda and her mother. That's what we need to talk about.
So that's throughout the course of the movie, Magda is very meek as well, but she is more resistant than she is cowering. But she just kind of does what she's supposed to do. She's taking care of her mother. She's got bite marks on her. She's got bruises on her. Tomas figures out quickly that she's being abused by the seemingly sick old lady.
Right.
And there are weird things in the house, like the plumbing doesn't really work. The electricity has been shut off.
There's bats in the belfry.
There's bats in the belfry. He goes to fix the toilet, and there's a little toilet demon bat.
Which is the cool. That's one of the coolest creature effects in the movie.
Yes,
really, really nifty work there. That freaked me out.
Yeah, and it's like, holy shit, what is this? But
it's like a hairless. It almost looked like a skeleton.
Well, it was like an albino hairless
it was creepy.
Bat with a rat's tail.
Teeth, and big ass.
They're born with teeth.
It was one of those moments where I'm watching it thinking to myself, it's going to pop alive. It's going to pop alive. And when it does, I still jumped.
Yeah.
Even though I knew it was coming, I still
Well, so he later finds out where the bats are coming from, but we'll get there. But this whole time he hears the mother up above his room, and he and she's scratching at things, she's kind of hitting at things, she's moaning. It's not a great situation. And Magda doesn't really seem to be all that heartbroken.
No.
Nor does she seem all that
disconnected from it.
Yeah, it's just like, well, that's just the way she is. She's going to die soon. It's okay.
But then you also get a little bit of a sense, a small sense at least, of her having lost her life to this. Like she's never been able to live her own life. And that's what Tomas kind of takes pity on her for.
Right. She talks about that when this is all over, she wants to go out to a nightclub and go dancing.
Like a fucking alien. She dances like an alien.
Oh, so great.
And it kind of makes a lot of sense. Like it's an interesting clue. It's sort of like, it's a clue.
Yeah, I have to go back a little, though, because I don't think Magna's character is set up well at all.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I understand what they're trying to do with their character, but I'm not really buying it along the way.
The whole scene in the beginning with, and this is right off the bat, with the nun saying nobody turns down Magna's cooking. And the way that he eats the meat and the way that they film it, everything about that scene, I'm like, something is wrong with this woman and that nun.
Yeah, it undercuts some of the suspense, in my opinion. It creates a false suspense that at the mercy of the surprise.
Yes.
Well, I felt that there was something wrong with the food. I thought they were eating pieces of mother.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Well, yeah,
but it
exactly.
Still gives you the wrong impression.
It still gives you the wrong impression of Magna.
I will say, having watched the trailer after watching the movie, the trailer tells you everything you need to know. You know that there's something not right with these two women.
Yeah.
And that mother is not at all just a sick old lady.
Right.
Right.
So it's... so in a way, I wonder if we had all watched the trailer
clear
first.
Early in the movie too, though. Like
but
it becomes pretty apparent that there's something wrong when she's not comfortably in a bed, that she's trying to kill herself with the live wiring in the house. I mean, they don't keep it from you for very long. That there's something very wrong here.
That was something interesting to me too. That kind of undercut it. Was that if they were just caring for her to die, why take all these precautions so that she can't end her own life?
There's the absolute lack of mercy.
Yeah.
It absolutely undercuts the story to me. Yep. Yeah. 100%.
Right. So, okay. So Tomas starts to kind of fall in love with Magda, similarly to the way I think he thought Miriam was going to fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing is that there is this one scene with Miriam where he's like, hey, I saw you every day at school. Didn't you think I was hot shit or something? And she's just like, I'm sorry. I just want to go and get my daughter. It's like, I don't really give a shit about you, sir.
There's another moment that I really like that's related to this, where Magna tries to teach Tomas something. And it's when she's reading the romance novel.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like a little snooty about it because he's an intellectual. And she makes a very simple distinction. She said between love and romance. Love is a sacrifice and romance is an offering. And I don't think Tomas really understands what love is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and she's telling him she's telling us right then and there the problem with Tomas.
Right.
Yep.
So, things start to get a little psychedelic one night, just all of a sudden, and he goes to look he goes with Magda to kind of check in on Mother, and this is still in the good part of the movie. And she's birthing the demon bats.
Yeah.
Which is kind of awesome. I like that.
This is interesting because this then at that point, it's like, oh, okay, maybe Magna isn't so bad. Magna is maybe, what is her name?
Magda.
Thank you. Maybe
Magma.
Isn't so bad. Magma. Liquid magma. Because she's been saddled with this burden.
Right.
And it's fucking weird, but he has all the more pity for her at this point.
Right. And he learns that, yes, her mother is, her quote unquote mother is consumed by a demon.
Yep.
And that the demon consumes the person completely. which is also important because we find out it's a sex-changing demon.
Mm-hmm. And it births demon bats.
Demon bats. And
why are you saying it's a sex-changing demon?
Because the mother was the previous house's
Mother
owner.
was the previous house's owner.
Yeah. Who was a man.
Yes. Yeah. And the demon turned him into a female.
Well, not really. He still had a penis.
Yeah, well, but he was also birthing.
But he was still
birthing
demon.
If that's
demon bats.
Yeah,
it's referred to as mother.
It's an intersex demon. Okay, here we'll just call it that way.
I thought that shit was coming out of its stomach, but you may be right too.
No,
it was hard to tell.
It was most definitely transfiguring.
Well,
the person
I think that there's a little bit of commentary on gendering there as well, on what that really means and what mother means, and does that mean you have female genitalia? Does it mean you give life to something, whether that life is ugly or beautiful, right?
Right.
I think there's something to be probably read into there.
Oh, surely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so basically, Tomas was picked to come to this house because he is going to be the next person that will be possessed by this demon.
Right.
Or a form of this demon.
And why? Because he sexually assaulted Miriam when she tried to run across the border.
Yeah.
And there's an important scene with her finding the amulet and saying, well, maybe it's meant to protect me.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is kind of, at the time that it's said, a throwaway line to me.
Right.
Because I'm still on Tomas's team.
Right. It's irony.
Yeah.
Well, and also that's why the life-sized version of that thing who was speaking to Tomas as he was being possessed
takes the form
of it to basically mock him that you did this to the person who thought I would protect them, and
which this is where I think it's an interesting where things kind of go there in the conclusion in the reveal is it's not well structured, it's not really super clear as it's happening what's going on. It gets real cosmic,
which I would have thought would have been right up your alley.
It usually is, but it just felt a little unearned.
It didn't feel consistent with the movie.
Right.
The movie was very earthy.
Yeah.
In the way that, like I said, the very beginning, the very first thing that I said, it's like, I love the woodland setting of the opening. That's my very first note.
Yeah, it felt like it needed a little bit more of like The Witch, right?
A little bit less seen, a little bit more implied, less seen.
Yeah, the whole like seashell and the manifestation of that, and her as the amulet, sort of benevolent God who must birth this evil that has to be contained in a human form of a sinner. It's like, what? It's like, what?
Well, I mean, it's torture. It's torture for Tomas.
It is torture for Tomas, but it's also necessary for her.
Why? Yeah. She kills the I guess she's feeding off of the death of Tomas.
Yeah, she has to have that host.
Right.
Or whatever this yin to her yang is.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's just super fucking convoluted in my opinion.
Right, and you can tell that they knew it because I kind of highly doubt they had that last scene originally conceived for this.
Oh, I didn't get that last scene at all.
Yeah.
Well, the last scene is what finally told me what was happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I feel like as a viewer, I should have realized it prior to them having.
You needed that last scene to tell you that, Magna is the driving force in all of this. She's the little baby vampire in Let the Right One In, and the nun is her caretaker, and Tomas is her victim.
Right.
Basically, I mean that's the whole thing.
I wish I would have put that all together without this throwaway scene with the. Well, it's not a throwaway; it's necessary, I guess.
Well, it's necessary, but it's yeah. There's just I feel like that there's. Yeah, I agree with you, Chuck. I feel like that last scene was tacked on as kind of a we need a tidier.
I needed it. I fucking needed it.
We fucked up this last third of the movie.
I was confused as fuck. I looked at this, like, what?
Yeah, what? I didn't understand.
What is this? What is this cosmic amulet thing happening when the seashell? What?
Yeah. Well, and also it's like Tomas just kind of gives himself over to being possessed. Like, he doesn't seem like he wants to fight it like the mother did. And of course, we're shown everything piecing together, which is kind of a trope I don't really like in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good. Most of the time it's not. And so, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, though, the first 2 acts are interesting and well enough made that I can at least say, if you want to check it out, it's not, it's definitely worth a check out.
Yeah, I would recommend this movie to people who liked, who would I recommend this to? Probably people who liked the new Suspiria. I think you probably would get something out of this. Jeff and I have pretty strong opinions about that movie. I definitely think if you liked Darren Aronofsky's Mother, this movie is for you. That's another movie I have mixed
even maybe
on.
Hereditary.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, in a way. Because
if you
the ending of Hereditary gets a little weird, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a similar build-up almost.
Yeah, for sure. I think Hereditary that sticks the landing a little better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some people disagree, but I agree that it does stick the landing.
Yeah.
I could have done without the last 10 minutes of Hereditary, and I would have absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Right.
Where in the end, it's like, I like that movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
I think probably what happened here with me.
Yeah.
I would have liked it with less, I guess maybe less mystery and the reveal at the end being weird. Like, it would have been a cool little horror film.
Yeah.
I am always appreciative of female-led horror and female-directed horror. I think that viewpoint is sorely underrepresented in the horror family. So, but it doesn't always work for me. And this didn't work for Susan too much either. But I do think that this director, Romola Garai, has a very good eye.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what she does next. I thought the score, and I also loved that she had almost like a whole female crew. She had the cinematographer was a woman. The composer of the score was a woman who is very interesting, Sarah Anglis. This might be my favorite element of the whole movie is her score. She is a British composer, multi-instrumentalist, and sound historian. I'm quoting from Wikipedia here, whose music combines ancient instruments with theremin, Max, which is a computer software program, electronics, and her own robotic inventions. She performs her music live and also composes for theater. She's done different takes on Bernard Herrmann's work. She's like rescored episodes of The Twilight Zone. She's interesting, and I thought her score was so fucking bonkers and awesome. I really, really liked it. It made me feel like the movie wanted me to feel, which is a little off kilter. Definitely, like a lot of bad things are happening, and a very, very solid feeling of unease and dread throughout. Like, she just nailed the tone of this movie for me.
I mean, with the exception of the narrative, everything was done really well. It was acted well. It was shot well.
Yeah.
It was like, it's just the narrative pacing and
the storytelling. It needed some tightening. It probably needed another maybe, I don't know, rewrite or something.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Amulet.
Yes.
Do you know what a demon is? She belongs to it.
Oh boy, here we go.
Let's move on to The Rental.
Let me show you out back, and then I'll get out of your hair. The stars are insane out here.
I should have brought the telescope.
What do you need a telescope in the city for? Unless you're like a peeping Tom or something.
What is a rental? Rental is it's a bit of an ensemble, character-driven.
First of all,
thriller, I guess.
All right, wait a minute. I guess an ensemble of 6 people total in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, like a small ensemble.
Robert Altman, it ain't.
Well, right. But these are all. I mean, most of these actors are somewhat recognizable. Like you've got Dan Stevens, who is probably the biggest star in The Thing. He was Matthew in Downton Abbey. He's was on FX's Legion.
The Beast and Beauty and the Beast. He
was. Yep. Absolutely, in the live action remake or whatever. He was in The Guest, which is one of my favorite thrillers of the last. We're gonna
get that one someday. It's
phenomenal. He was he was most recently before this in that Univision movie on Netflix, which is not terrible, despite what you may have heard. He especially is not terrible. Anyway, he's in it. Alison Brie is in it from Community, from Glow.
I mean, she
incidentally is married. She's married to the director, Dave Franco, who is James Franco's brother.
Yep.
And then you have what's his name? Jeremy Allen White, who was on the show Weeds for years, and Toby Huss, who was probably most recognizable for their most recent Halloween. And I knew him from the AMC TV show *Halt and Catch Fire*.
And don't forget Sheila Vand.
I think he was on King of the Hill as well, wasn't he?
I don't know, probably.
For years.
But, Sheila Vand was the first person I recognized outside of Alison Brie, because she is the girl who walked home alone.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, my God. I didn't put that together. But yes,
she was also
the girl who walked home alone at night.
On the Snowpiercer show, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Anyway, that to me is like, yeah, that's a pretty solid cast, right? And what you have here is really not that original. Two couples go on a weekend getaway. It's somewhat unique in the sense that you have Dan Stevens and his partner. What's her name again? Sheila Vand. Yeah. They're business partners, right? Yeah. And they just got some seed money for their tech startup, and they're going to celebrate with their significant others at this beautiful beach house for the weekend. It just so happens that Sheila Vand is dating Dan Stevens' brother, and Dan Stevens is married to, I believe, maybe not married, but it has been with Alison Brie for
married to,
okay, for like 10 years or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So it starts out with sort of this pretty derivative premise. I thought the characters at this point were interesting enough, though. They develop their personalities in a fairly quick pace. They sort of set up right from the beginning that there could be, or maybe there is, something between Sheila Vand and Dan Stevens' character. I mean, I thought that they were together when they were booking the house.
Right? 100%.
And then you find out, oh, they're not. She's with his brother, who I guess is kind of a fuck up, and you learn about that. There's some moments where they're together with their significant others that I think are really genuine and ring really true. I felt like I kind of liked these people, right? Jeff is shaking his head over there. I can see him, and he's like, not at all. But I kind of felt like I liked these people. But then you start getting like the Dan Stevens effect. Dan Stevens in everything has got this like uncanny way of being, maybe he's a good guy, maybe he's a bad guy. And that's kind of where this movie, I think, tries to take you. And right down to the fact that there's there's something that comes up in the car ride up to the house that Sheila Vans, her character, tried to make the booking first but was denied. But then Dan Stevens made the booking and got it, right? So Sheila Vand, if you don't know, is Persian. She in the movie has a very Middle Eastern sounding name. So there's this sense of, all right, well, is that racism? Why would they not give the booking to me, but they would give it to you, a white male? And he's very dismissive of that. And you can start to think, well, what's that about? So who wants to take it from here? Chuck, you want to pick it up?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, they have a moment where, like you said, Dan Stevens is like, everything can't be about racism. There could be a real reason that this occurred,
right? Which is probably bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is. It's his character having this. It's a setup for him and what type of guy he is. Right. But
and you're in a kind of I don't really generally like thrillers like this where you don't have a lot of characters, because it gives you limited options as to who will be the perpetrator of the bad things, right? So then what they have to do is they have to try to make you think that people who ultimately aren't totally bad are the bad person to keep you off.
Right. And my problem with this movie, though, and maybe Jeff will bring this up later, is that it didn't really care if you thought any of them did it.
Well, it was going to subvert it all.
Yeah. It never. Well, I mean, even in the telling, I never thought one of them was perpetrating anything.
Fair.
Which I feel like a good movie would have given me more doubt about somebody.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
But so, yeah, they arrive at the house. A good old boy comes up to let him in, right? We'll call him a good old boy for the lack of me explaining what he is. But you could tell this is the kind of guy they wanted you to think would make a racist decision.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
And Sheila's character, I forget her name, kind of confronts him about that. And it kind of puts all of them in a weird, like, headspace about this weird dude coming back and maybe doing something to them, or, fucking with them in some way because she's basically attacked him for being a racist.
Well, that's not actually, though. I will say that they still don't buy into what Mina says, because at one point, like, he's talking about, it's like, oh, the stars out here.
But that's not what I meant, though. There's what I'm saying is that she pissed him off, so now he might fuck with them, regardless of what his character is, whether he's a racist or not.
Well, they don't.
All of them were worried. Alison Brie was worried that he came back into the house.
No.
She was worried.
No, she said,
she's the one that wasn't.
She's the one who said, well, he did say that he would come back tonight.
Right.
And she's then that's the other kid. Yeah, the other.
She was like, well, he couldn't have just left it on the front porch. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the only one that didn't care, apparently. But yeah, I mean, it created some tension within the group that she confronted this guy. Albeit small, I guess it could have been more. But I don't know, at this point, I guess they decide to do ecstasy for whatever reason. These adults are like, let's do
yeah,
it's exactly what I would do if I went.
Let's do drugs.
Yep.
Hello, fellow teenager people. Let us do the drugs.
Yeah,
that's the first thing I thought of was fucking Rob Schneider coming in dressed like a skater.
It's
Hello,
a little
fellow teenagers.
It's a little unbelievable to me because at my age now, which these people were younger.
Yeah, they're younger. They're probably 30s.
In my 30s, I would not have been like, let's go up to this house. No matter how many drugs I did in my life, and we won't discuss that, in my 30s, that wouldn't be my go-to for a night where I'm on vacation. You know,
you're only going to be gone for 2 nights?
Yeah, it just would. It wasn't believable, but it served the story, I guess.
What didn't ring true to me, but maybe rings more true in that scenario, is the fact that Alison Brie was like, well, I didn't really want to do it tonight. I wanted to go to bed early tonight. It was like, you're there for 2 nights, Allison
Right.
Marie. You're like, why would you go to bed? I mean, it's setting up a lot of convenient things.
Right.
And that's kind of what not so great thrillers do, is they create an environment of convenience. And that's what this movie starts doing there. But still, hey, I'm looking for a good popcorn thriller. I'm like, sure, let's see what happens next.
Yeah, and what does happen next? Dan Stevens
dances with the bulldog.
Yep, he dances.
My favorite part of the movie. It's awesome. He's like on ecstasy. He's hugging the dog and dancing with them. It's so great.
But
they're not supposed to have that dog, by the way.
No, the dog is not supposed to be there. It's a no pets allowed. Yeah.
Right, and they have the dog pretty much tied up outside the entire movie, partly because somebody forgot to bring him in, but also because that's where he was best suited for the narrative.
Yes.
But
3 people came up with this story, guys. That fucking pissed me off when I saw that credit.
It just doesn't piss me off. It's just so benign, this movie. It's like it's like, hey, think this is going to happen next now, and you're going to think this happens, and it's fine.
What point do we need to get to in the story, Jeff, for you to give your real reasons for hatred? Like, are you there yet, or does more need to happen?
I can talk about this. I can pick up the thread from here because there's a couple of things that I don't like already in the movie, and then there are things that I really don't like from this point forward.
Before you get into it, the thing that bothered me the most, and I don't know if this bothered you as much as it bothered me, but the thing that really bothered me was this thing had to happen because, again, narrative things had to happen and misdirection had to happen. But the hot tub scene there, it really disappointed me that they both couldn't be better people.
Yes.
And it especially disappointed me because it happened right after she said, "You never disappoint me," because he always does the right thing, right? And then he did the exact wrong thing, and she allowed it to happen.
So here's why
that bugged me a lot.
Here's why I think they included the drugs in this movie, because a drug like ecstasy
could happen.
Yes, a drug like ecstasy would make people more touchy-feely and emotional, and act out of their natural instincts.
But just a few hours before, there was already a little bit of seed that was already there.
Right. I wish that wasn't there.
Fair enough.
Honest with
you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I didn't like any of these characters. They are not my type of people. Instantly, I'm like, oh, these fucking yuppies. Here's the thing about the Mina character. I don't doubt that she did not get the booking because of racism. And I don't doubt that she, in her real world, would have that problem. I get it, right? But
Can I take a guess here? Sorry, go ahead. I want to take a guess of what your problem with that is.
Well, go for it.
The renter wouldn't care who's coming up. In the context of this film, why do they care who they allow to get it?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe I'm wrong there.
No, fair enough. Actually, I didn't think about that. What I was thinking about was that she was written so ham-fisted that it's like, would you take this person anywhere with you? Like, I'm being honest. It's like if every single conversation leads up to, well, it's a racist thing. That guy's a dick, and
so you're Dan Stevens.
Problems.
I see exactly where you're coming, and honestly, it did feel uncomfortable for me too. But I think that they're trying to make a comment there. It's not well done.
It's clumsy
because
fuck.
It is very clumsy. But
because every problem that ends up happening is because of her.
But Dan Stevens sees things through the lens of privilege. She has lived, and she has probably experienced this countless times. And that is what she does not have the benefit of the doubt. She does not think that people are inherently good because she has always seen them be inherently bad.
But
the fact that Dan Stevens isn't on the same page with her, where then later she's like, you never disappoint me, that was incongruent with his character.
But I mean, also, she is. There's and maybe this would have been lessened if there were a few more characters.
But I'm with you on this though, Jeff. It's like, and one part of me is like, just don't say anything. Just be quiet so you and your white friends can have fun, right? Or is she really that convinced that this was racist? But what then next? You know, you couldn't convince your friends to turn around and go home or cancel the booking. So
exactly.
what are you gonna gain from this?
You never should have left. You never should have left.
You never should have come.
Right. You were halfway fucking there, and then you're like, "Well, I didn't get it. That's weird."
And then to top it off, you know, if let's pretend she is wrong, and she honestly probably was.
Probably.
She starts the interaction with him by essentially making a classist comment.
Yeah.
About the impossibility of someone like him being rich enough to own a house like this.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm with you. I mean,
it becomes this caricature of a type of character that in the context of the movie doesn't matter.
But
it's wasted dialogue. And
social issues in this movie shouldn't have been there.
But none of this makes me angry.
Well, I haven't gotten to that. We stopped.
Okay.
We
What's
haven't
going to
even
happen
gotten
next?
Let him get angry. Let him get angry.
Jeff said he hated every fucking second of this movie.
Well,
those are his words.
All right, so
those are his words.
Okay, so if we start with the characters, Mina is too intense for the purposes of the story. Check. Charlie is a douche prep. That's Dan Stevens.
Oh,
check. Michelle is kind of okay. That's Allison Brie, but she doesn't know. But she doesn't know her own husband.
No.
That's you're with somebody for 10 years. You should probably know a little bit more about him, about where you came from.
What doesn't she know?
She didn't know that he has ritualistically, continuously left people.
That's exactly the thing you wouldn't know about your husband.
I agree with Jason on this. That is something you could theoretically hide.
Yeah.
And
that shit is like why divorces happen all the time. I mean, how many marriages end in divorce? How many wives? And I mean, that rings totally true to me.
Fair enough. I mean, she was kind of okay. However, later
she was an idiot. Later,
she was an idiot. Later,
yeah, so 100%.
So at the point that I made
in this movie,
yes,
well, she is, but she's also an idiot. Yeah. At the point that I wrote that she's kind of okay, she wasn't pulling out drugs around our next guy who was possibly redeemable, but has been in and out of jail. Maybe you don't fucking bring the drugs with the guy who's been in and out of jail.
Yeah, that's true. And he was pretty underdeveloped. But I also kind of liked him.
He was, I mean, again, Michelle and Josh are the two possibly redeemable characters.
He was my favorite character in the movie.
I agree. He was
trying
to do the right thing.
Although I would also agree that the killer was my favorite and least favorite of the whole movie.
He had a bad case. He had a bad case of imposter syndrome. He was jealous of his brother, and rightfully so.
But not until that point, though. That's the other thing that's annoying about this film. He should have had valid reasons. Yeah, that would have been better if it would have been better if Dan and Sheila already had this relationship.
I don't think so.
Oh, I think 100% it would have, and it would have given more credence to the fact that one of them could commit murder.
Let me tell you something.
Tell me something.
My wife is jealous of you two sometimes because I'm constantly texting you both, right? She's like, it's like, I have a connection. I have something with you two as platonic males that I don't have with her. And she recognizes that. She understands that. And she knows it's irrational to be that jealous about it. And that's what they're going through. they're going through the same thing. Those two intellectually stimulate each other in a ways that their significant others can't.
Well, that's
she's
fair
also going to
enough.
regret giving you that rum drink because you just talked about
is. Yeah. but it's a different thing. They have different ways of connecting. And
when you explain that, I get it.
His brother hasn't quite come to terms with that, where she has.
Sure. Well, but I mean, also, I think Chuck and I'm
happy that they have that he has a creative outlet like that with her that I can't give him.
Right. I don't have to fill that void in him. Someone else is doing it in a healthy way at the moment.
So, at the moment. Yeah. And it was at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of, I think, why Chuck and I have a little bit of an issue with this. Everything feels like this is the first time they've talked about this stuff.
Okay.
With somebody else. Like, I mean, yes, they have a throwaway line where it's like, I can't believe I'm spending the weekend with your brother, your dipshit idiot brother.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going to go on these long ass hikes on the beach and in the woods and just talk to you about deep shit. Yeah, I can't believe I spent the whole weekend with you though.
Yeah.
Come on. It's like these people know each other. And it's like, these things, it doesn't feel like, again, real big letters. 3 people came up with this story, and this is what they came up with, was a bunch of what feels like aliens communicating with one another.
Well, I think that's what happens when you get a generic thriller like this. You get themes that ring true and are relatable, but you get circumstances that are ridiculous, right?
Yeah, because I can say that there are interesting things that are in this movie, right?
Yeah,
right.
Because it's 88 minutes, and we gotta make sure we get from point A to point B to point C, and that's kind of honestly where I was talking about. A lot of giallos, right?
Right.
Are like that. There's this, something bad is going to happen, and not every giallo starts with a murder. Sometimes the murder doesn't happen until the very end.
Sure.
Right.
Well, but I mean, I just think that it's like there were interesting pieces in this movie, right? But like it. Maybe part of it was that even though it didn't end particularly great, I watched this directly after watching Amulet.
Yeah.
And it's like Amulet at least had more interesting characters that I wanted to try to figure out.
Yeah.
And these people were acting like they had just met each other.
Yeah.
Also, I couldn't really grab hold of any one character whatsoever. Like, what do you think? Why, Jason, do you like Friday the 13th Part 4 the most?
Oh my God! Well, yes. Do I like likable characters?
I knew this was going to be used against you.
I knew it was too.
Yeah, so you have likable characters.
As soon as I told Jeff that I don't need likable characters to like a movie, I knew he was going to bring up Friday the 13th Part 4. I knew he was, because it is absolutely why I love Friday the 13th Part 4.
And there's a reason
why it is far and away the best of them in my
well, I mean,
it transcends the other ones.
Is because they are truly likable people, and when they die, it hurts.
Yes, and and I like the people in Part 6. So 6 and 4, I think most people would say, or at least most people on this episode would say, those are the best movies, right, of that series, because you grab hold of the characters. You feel like even when there's a bad character in the mix, and I'm not talking about Jason Voorhees, I'm talking about just a shitty person in the mix. You don't hate them,
right?
And they almost serve a purpose.
And they serve a purpose
in not a convenient way.
Exactly. In this movie, you had to have Mina be a certain way so that she then confronts Taylor to where it looks like that they're going to fight, so that then Josh comes in and beats the shit out of Taylor, so that Taylor is knocked out, and while everybody's trying to figure out, another person comes in and kills Taylor, creating another problem. And it's like, okay, this is now, the pieces just, it's like you're just cramming the pieces together for me. And it just irritates me so much, because
I want to, sorry.
Well, and then the way that the movie really ultimately ends, big time spoiler, by the way, we've already made it to spoiler, so too bad, everybody. 1, everybody dies. 2, we find out next that the killer apparently has multiple places that he does this. We know nothing about him. We know nothing about why the killer, like at least with Jason Voorhees, we get he's a fucking monster. This guy is just a douche, you know.
So two things I want to bring up.
Yeah, go for it.
This guy being a douche. So
yeah, that's not exactly the word I was going for, but
right.
That's
but
what I landed on.
If you think about it, these people are all chasing false problems the entire movie.
Yeah.
When the real problem is just outside their vision. I think that aspect of the story could have been great.
I agree.
But it did not deliver on that premise. But I think that's what Franco was going for here, is that we're all chasing these weird inner stories that don't matter to how your life is going to end.
We're all so wrapped up in ourselves that we can't see what's really happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually a nice call by the movie. It just wasn't executed well.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, and the thing is I think that they could have, it would have been sloppy, but they could have said, wow, I can't believe that we got that, we got that money over Rival. And then we say, oh, the Rival's coming after them. You know, they're trying to expose that there's some shenanigans going on between Mina and Charlie, you know, and all of this other stuff. And then it just ultimately leads to murder. Or, you know, you can have things that happen in the background that points to why the things are happening the way they are. And it's like
that wouldn't give you the
I feel like
go ahead.
To me, I feel like the movie really falls apart when Mina and Charlie decide to hide what happened, to be quite honest.
Because at that point they're villains.
They're villains at that point, and you don't really care. And they're also putting their significant others into compromising situations.
Also, after
and they try to dance around that, where Mina's like, "Oh, you're really sure you want to take a shower? I like your musk," but it's so half-hearted.
Yeah, well, the worst thing happens even later than that.
Yeah.
After Michelle leaves, and then Charlie goes after her, leaving Josh and Mina in the house alone. Josh is like frustrated that, oh my God, I killed a guy, because for all they know, he killed.
Right.
And she's like, and he's like, I can't believe I put you, Mina, into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, it's okay. There is this whole other, so she is now perpetrating her own bullshit.
But that's also why I liked his character.
Yeah.
Because he had self-awareness. He understood that his actions, even if he didn't kill the dude, I think would have had a similar. Yeah,
well, he did. Yeah,
but he reacted again because Mina chased down Taylor into that bathroom, confronted him, got into a situation where he's now saying, "I didn't do it, and I'm calling the police." And then she basically goes after him, causing the scuffle, which then causes.
Yeah.
That's not. Why should I?
And his brother is apparently the killer, right? That dude who was renting the house said his brother rents it out.
Oh, well, they want you to maybe think that, and it's possible that he is.
Well, it's possible that he said that he just.
But I
kind
of thought no. Once he killed the caretaker, I was like, that's
his own brother.
Well, yeah. The other thing is he could have been saying that just to. No, my brother owns this place. I didn't have anything to do with it.
The movie tries really hard to make you follow different threads of thought, and
a lot of that was
it's a lot of it is throwing spaghetti at the wall, but it's frustrating. I mean, this movie is not a great movie. I was entertained by it.
I was not.
I was entertained by it. There was enough there for me to be like, oh, whoa, okay, cool, interesting twist. I like the characters enough. I think I told Jeff I found them relatable enough, if not likable. The dog didn't die.
The dog did not die. I was surprised by that.
That's good. So, Jeff, let me just say this real quick. And maybe it's not important, but the way you said there's a dog situation when you were watching this movie, and the way you were talking about it, I thought it was going to be very graphic, very terrible, like in a lot of ways. And I agree with Jason, it's benign. But to bring up one of Jason's points, you brought up Giallo earlier in the week. And then again tonight.
Yeah.
The Giallo stories are almost always as bad as this one.
Yeah.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
What they have is style. This movie did not have any style.
It was very flat.
They have intrigue. This movie did not have any intrigue. Like, it missed on a lot of the notes that would have made it good.
The style, for sure. That's probably the third thing I didn't think about. But because I did think it was competently directed, if not a tight story. I thought that the framing of things was fine. It was. Oh,
there was plenty.
It was put together fine. I thought it was. Yeah. It was edited to build suspense. It wasn't like a hack job.
No. I mean,
but it did not have his signature style for sure. Right. It felt like I'm trying to cop David Fincher or something, right? But what it lacked, what I really walked it back on as far as the Giallo thing, is that the killer did not have a personal connection to its victims,
and there was no reveal.
But that's important to the fact that the perpetrator was not punished.
Right.
Yeah.
It also
always happens in a Giallo, and that's honestly what I thought that Jeff was going to be really upset about, was the fact that it kind of broke his final girl rules. Because I know you get upset about that.
I mean, when there's senseless violence without seeming motive, like, again, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger is just monsters, right?
Right.
But they still somewhat have a MO and a motive. So they still have some, for lack of a better term,
this guy had a motive.
We just don't know what it is.
We just don't know what it is, and that's.
Well, I mean, he likes to kill. I mean, do you need a more motive than that?
I don't know. I think if you watch a lot of these, not even watch, but if you know the stories of serial killers, they all have a reason that they became a serial killer. In some,
most slasher films, yes, they want to give you a reason.
Even in real life,
I know, but. Again, I think that is a little bit of the subversion. I think what Franco was trying to do here was take your traditional thriller and mash it up with a slasher and subvert both at the same time.
Right. I agree with
that. I think was his intent. And I think
that's going to take a lot to pull off.
And I think that's what he did. I just don't think he did it well.
It's going to take a lot more than 88 minutes to convince me of either of those.
And maybe he thought, ooh, I can make a franchise out of this, like, Airbnb killer.
Saw franchise or something. Yeah.
I could see it.
Well, but
I could fucking see it.
But
you and I talked about this, Jason, months or a year ago.
We did. We were like spitballing an Airbnb killer movie. It was a lot different than this, but yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
I interrupted both of you.
No, I was just going to say, it's like, I mean, if I cannot like at least one character, the movie becomes very grating to me. And I'm not, and here's the thing though, right? Like, you can have a movie about bad people, like Goodfellas. Okay, I'm comparing this movie to Goodfellas now.
Good job.
Fuck up, I'm going to do it. So Goodfellas is a movie full of criminals and bad people, right? But you still have some sort of connection with them, that you understand the whys and the reasoning behind some of their decisions.
Motives.
Their motives.
Get their motives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I don't even want to watch Kids ever again. All of those characters are fucks, and they can all be in the next version of this movie and get killed. But that's
a bad comparison too. I mean, I don't think Kids is a commentary.
Okay.
I mean, kids commentary.
Okay. I'm not trying to, what I'm saying is that this is my motives behind not liking some movies that people sometimes like.
But this is also my thing about, just because you don't like the characters doesn't mean you can discount the movie. I think it's fair to say you don't enjoy watching kids. It's not fair to discount kids as the piece of work that it was trying to be, because it was extremely effective.
Well, either which way, if I can't find a character that I can at least give a shit for, it's going to be a real, real painful watch for me. And that's what this movie was. Yeah. And so, and it's, these are not my type of people. This is not, I'd be pretty irritated in this situation.
So you're telling me you would rather hang out with Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro from Goodfellas.
Ray Liotta guaranteed would have had better drugs than these people did.
That may be true, but fuck that. I would not want to hang out with those guys. I would not last long. I'd much rather hang out with these tech yuppies than mafia people.
Well, again, it's not. I mean, you're kind of conflating the.
Well, you made the comparison.
Well, fair enough, but you don't understand why I can't get behind something when I can't get behind, or when I can't at least understand or crack the nut on a character or on the characters involved. Well, that's why this movie was excruciating for me to watch. I could not get into the headspace of any of these characters.
Yeah, I guess for me, I don't know, Jeff, you watch so many bad movies that are bad. Like,
at least there's one character I can at least get into the headspace of.
Maybe, but holy fuck, man! Like, so many things happen in those movies that make no sense whatsoever, but yet you still find something to enjoy about it. And that's where I was so baffled by the fact that you could so thoroughly hate this movie when it feels to me like just such a throwaway thing. It's like, okay, I used that dumb mystery. I don't need to go back to that again, and I'll forget it in 6 months. I could not have the, as you put it, the visceral reaction that you had to this movie. I just couldn't. And I'm not gonna also have like any sort of profuse love for it either, but I won't remember this movie in a year. I just won't. And
I barely remember it now.
And if that's probably the most damning thing you could say about it.
Yeah.
It's forgettable.
Three people came up with this.
Something, but we can't hear you. Were you just
sorry. I said that's the most damning thing you can say about it. Not the most damning thing
that Jeff could say is I hated every fucking second of this movie. So.
And also, it's just the twist of the knife when there's 3 people who came up with this bullshit story.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
Three of us could have done better.
Dave Franco made a movie.
My last point on this is semi in defense of Jeff, because a lot of those bad movies that he watches and likes don't take themselves as seriously as this one does, and don't try to drag in current social issues as plot points when they aren't necessary. There is shit there that I agree with Jeff on. Yeah. I just don't vehemently hate it because of it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't disagree either. I don't.
But I get why it's so frustrating. While I tried to look past that stuff, if I got hung up on it, I'd probably have the same reaction.
I would be frustrated with this movie if I was the one writing it. But I wasn't.
I would be frustrated with you because you're right.
Yeah, I know.
and you're working off of table napkins from 3 other fucking high assholes.
I spent 88 minutes watching it. I spent another 40 minutes talking about it with you guys. Whatever. It was worth it.
Fine. I do not recommend this movie, but I understand that people will probably watch it. It's number 1 at the box office.
People will like this movie.
Wow, number one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got
number one because it made like probably $100,000 in drive-ins.
Yeah, it actually has a relatively good critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, not a great audience score.
Yeah, I read a review of it. It might have been the Rolling Stone review, and it hit a lot of these same points. It doesn't have an ending. It didn't know what it was. No identity. Yeah, it's true. It is. It's Dave Franco made a movie. Good job.
This will be over soon, I promise.
This will never be over.
So to recap, Amulet, it's a marginal thumbs up for me. And I think the same for the two of you.
I would give Amulet a very shaky thumbs up. Yes. I think there's enough there in the craft and in the potential of its debut director. And I think that it's interesting enough, yes. It hits a lot of the checkbox that I typically like in horror. Cosmic elements, body horror, dread, intriguing characters, just a great score. It was just a movie that its parts were not as good as its sum.
Yeah. Okay. Chuck, same. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Charles.
I have no idea how I'm on mute, but whatever. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with Jason, with the exception of the narrative having some issues, and Amulet, I really liked a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth it just for the look and sound of the film. Would I recommend The Rental? Yeah, I guess if you're going to have popcorn and watch a movie and not care what... You have to not care about a lot of things to enjoy The Rental, but some of those things I often don't care about when I'm watching a horror movie.
If you're looking to turn your brain off and have some drinks and, yeah, just maybe looking for a somewhat new twist, then sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is a major thumbs down.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's see here. This upcoming Wednesday on Film Seizure, we have Boys in the Hood.
Yes.
Very, very good.
Yes.
Very, very important movie.
Hell yeah.
The next episode of Monster Mondays is Village of the Damned.
Oh, which one? Original?
Original.
Nice.
Very good movie as well. So we got a good week of stuff coming up in the week of August 10th. So a lot of good stuff coming. You can hear our stuff on SoundCloud, or we upload it to YouTube. We go to Stitcher. We have Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and Google Podcasts. Just go to filmseizure.com. You can find all of the things that we have done there. Then also, you can go over to Facebook and Twitter. Follow us by searching for Film Seizure. But this Friday, or each Friday, I should say, I have stuff going on at bmovieanima.com. The site that Jason says I watch bad things and still like them. Somewhat true most of the time. But anyway, so we will probably be doing this again at some point soon when something comes up that kind of catches our fancy.
Yeah.
So until next time, fellas.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I'm Jason Oliver.
And I am Jeff Arbuckle. Don't forget to save me the seat at the end of the sofa.